Hi there, everybody, and welcome to this week's Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week speaking with entrepreneurs, with founders, with growth leaders, all about how they have built their business. Delighted to be joined this week by Andrew Johnson of ShelfAware. Andrew, hey, how you doing?
Doing good. How you doing now?
Yeah, really well indeed, mate. Thank you so much for joining us. I wondered if I could start just by asking you how you first came into the world of running your own business.
Yeah, a lot of credit has to be given to my dad. So my dad, I work in a multi-generation business here. My father founded our business before I was born in '82. So I found myself working in the business at a young age because my dad was a firm believer in child labor. So
how young is young?
Yeah. Get them while they're young, get them in there working. So I was working in the family business with my siblings. I have 3 sisters and no brothers. And my mom worked there too. In the early years, and it's a physical goods distribution business, industrial distribution. So there's lots of stuff to do, stuff to move around.
Okay, good. And did you manage to get, or did you find that one or other of you was generally tasked with the physical side of things more than the others?
No, he was pretty fair in how he tasked us. Yeah, a little bit all the way around. When I got up to in my school age and I was getting ready to go to college and think about my career, I thought for a while I was going to go into a medical profession, and then I got a little older, a little wiser, and decided, my dad's got it pretty good. I like this whole idea of work really hard, but then earn yourself some sort of autonomy or freedom in the business community. So I wanted to pursue that. So I went to my dad and kind of surprised him with that revelation, and he told me, that's great, but I still want you to go to college. And so he had me go get my accounting degree, which in hindsight I was a little bitter at the time because I'm not a huge fan of accounting, but I knocked it out, did really well in school, and it was very helpful for me to get the accounting degree.
Yeah, nice one. I mean, that's kind of discipline, I guess, as well. Not always doing the things you really want to do is something that I guess you kind of find in young business or businesses that are growing, right? You need people to sort of muck in. Did you find that what you learned at college has been greater than just the pure discipline?
Yeah, to a degree. Well, you're hitting me at a weird time because in America, in the United States in general, I'm not sure. I have 3 children. I'm not sure they're going to go to college. Right. I really think colleges are headed in a non-practical direction. And for like founders and business owners, you could go to like a junior college or community college and get a couple of the fundamentals out of the way that are necessary building blocks to your business, and accounting and finance would be one of those. But as soon as you know how to, balance a ledger and work on your ARAP, I think you're done. And so all the liberal art stuff that I kind of take kind of as a prerequisite is to a degree a waste of time, because I think you can learn so much of that in the field. In the trenches, if you will.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I've got 2 children who are coming up towards that sort of age, doing some exams right now. And similar to you, I'm thinking actually, where's the University of Life versus University of, with the college life. And I do think, like you, that actually there's plenty more potentially that can be learned from just running a business.
Yeah, and our small business story really, I think, reaffirms that, and that's kind of where I pull a lot of my affirmation from of this is the right course. Some mix of some sort of formal education and mixed with like life education, and now you get inputs from YouTube or other online channels where you can find people who are like experts in every field who just freely give away their expertise, and you can just soak it all in by watching their videos. It's incredible. My family business. So my dad started this industrial distribution company, and then when I got out of college and started working for him, all 3 of my sisters got married to entrepreneurial dudes, and all those guys showed up at the business. And it took us a couple of years to kind of get to know each other and solidify as a team, but just a few short years we were working on the business instead of really in the business. And I watched my oldest brother-in-law, who was a coach and a physical education major before he started to work for us, and he's self-taught. He just started learning how to code and write software by watching YouTube. And that was really the genesis, the start of our journey towards internal innovation. So we started working on making the company more autonomous, leaner, more efficient, more accurate. faster at processing business transactions. And then eventually that led to where I'm working at today, which is ShelfAware. And ShelfAware is just another startup that was born inside the family business out of this process of repeated internal innovation, which eventually led to an external innovation, which is ShelfAware. And then we launched it as an independent business. So it's kind of grown out of this ecosystem. And I've watched all of us, all my brothers and myself, my brother-in-laws and myself learn as we go. People are like, so you develop software now. So how did you know, what's your background in software? It's like, well, we don't have a background in software. But it works.
The way that you're learning now, or the way that your colleagues, your brother-in-laws are learning now is through that self-taught, self-learning, self-motivation. And that's something that I think is just going to grow and grow. And in terms of ShelfAware, so what actually is it that the business does? How does it show up?
Yeah, so as an industrial distributor, we were in a family business. We were trying to grow and expand the business, and the market in America really wants, the world over, they really want more collaboration, partnership between suppliers and consumers. And we were finding ourselves not only selling parts, but then stocking them on our customers' shelves and maintaining those inventories remotely for them. And so we call those vendor managed inventories. We were running vendor managed inventories for large factories, and it's super labor intensive just to traditionally just send a person out and they visually monitor and inspect inventory levels. And through the years, we've tried to use barcode scanners, and the problem is adoption. The folks in the factory floor are busy, and kind of the last thing on their mind is inventory management. So if you say, hey, you got to zap, visually scan with a barcode scanner, hundreds of bags and boxes and bins each day to keep up with inventory, they just kind of fall behind eventually. So we developed a system that ShelfAware leverages RFID, which is radio frequency identification. So little tiny radio sensors are embedded in the product's packaging that we ship out to our customers.
Wow.
And then we install a small sensor at the factory on their inventory area. And then we can physically monitor the goods and if they're there or not. And so we track consumption of those products. And then once we know they're gone, then we, of course, send them more.
That's amazing.
So it's a remotely monitor virtual convenience store is kind of what we're setting up on the factory floor. And then our customer service agents sit back and they can take care of monitoring hundreds or thousands of SKUs for a manufacturer. We can guarantee lean inventory, but yet never stock them out because we're watching in real time on our computer, and we can be proactive instead of reactive. So
yeah, brilliant. So the problem is very real. It's very obvious. Obviously, if it runs out without people observing that that's running out, then there's a time delay and so on. So it's a really smart way of solving that. And is that and again, obviously it's been developed in-house. How do you kind of decide to develop that product? Is that something that just kind of you sit around the board table and kind of go, well, look, we need something that's going to be a tech solution? How does the product development work?
Usually for us, it was all out of selfish ambition. So we were just trying to cut our overhead, lower our labor. And so our internal innovation machine that we kind of spun up was looking at every department in our company and saying, how can we be more efficient? So we were diving into like physical bottlenecks. Where are people spending most of their time? Where are headaches or the fires that crop up in the business we need to kind of stamp out on a regular basis? How do we prevent those from ever catching fire? And so we were addressing all of these little issues throughout the business internally, and usually using little bits of software and process automation and better data for people on dashboards so they can make quicker decisions and be proactive versus reactive. And then the kind of the last frontier was, okay, we've tackled everything internally, and we looked around like, dang, it's pretty dang efficient. Like there's nothing else to do. We had a sales guy who said, what's not efficient is VMI. We're sending people out in the field all the time, driving around, people in trucks. You got time and mileage. Why? To visually inspect inventory. Sure, certainly we could leverage the internet and some sort of camera or sensor or something to monitor remotely that inventory consumption, just so we can get the guy off the street. That was our initial ambition. Was if we can make something that's like decent enough that we don't have to send the person out to the factory site, twice a week or 3 times a week. If we cut it to one, we'd be like wildly happy and enthused. And then ultimately what we made when ShelfAware, when you don't really know this sometimes when you're in the heart of the development, but we launched it and it was better than we thought. And we found ourselves staring at the data that was pouring in, and then we're like, this data is phenomenal. It's so granular, and we get so much of it that we can do more than just automate the inventory supply and resupply. We can actually see what the customer's building and start to monitor their trends and see, make assumptions, but really safe assumptions based on the data that these parts they pull together all the time are probably going in the same bill of materials. So if they're pulling these parts at the same time, let's co-locate them in the inventory area so they're not walking all over the place to grab them. So we physically move items closer to each other based on pick times because we knew they were associated with each other. So we were just all blown away because initially what started is let's just get our guy off the street, our person back in the office, turned into a whole kind of inventory platform. And then we again selfishly scaled it just for ourselves in our own little market niche and vertical for a couple of years. And then we kind of got to this jumping off point where we knew we had something really good in ShelfAware and that we could help others with it. And we were tired of selfishly pursuing it because so in a physical goods business, when your growth's really fast, the hardest thing is capitalizing the inventory growth. And it's just so expensive. And so you got physical product you got to buy and put it on the shelf for all your revenue gains. And we were tired. And so we said, let's slow our growth and sink some money into ShelfAware to make the software more out of the box scalable so we can hand it off, license it to other industrial product vertical suppliers. And so we spent about a year doing that, getting it to a web-based application that we could put in the hands of other industrial distributors and equip them to go do the same thing we're doing.
Brilliant. And from then, how do you then market out to these guys? What's your kind of the marketing side?
Yeah, so here's where I went really wrong. I grew up in a product sales business, and I'm really good at selling products, engineered products, and selling service, selling software is so wildly different, the process and the cycle. And I underestimated how big I needed my sales funnel. So if I was going to go back in time and do anything different, software as a service, especially in this B2B space, I mean, business to business. These are large organizations that I'm selling this software as a service to. They're not going to stop what they're doing and just adopt on a whim. It's all about timing. I got to find an organization that has an initiative that is aggressively trying to grow their market share, that has a huge existing infrastructure of people in trucks doing old school VMI that they'd like to replace. All the kind of like the stars have to align for large organizations to stop what they're doing and do something new. And I underappreciated because I came from a small business environment that was innovative from front to back. And so everybody at that facility, mainly because we drug them through the innovation process so many times, all the employees were always thinking about optimization. So they were like ready to change, like we just done a huge 3-week optimization push, and then like, oh, let's flush it and we'll do it again. And we'll make it better.
What's next? Yeah.
That's not normal. And I thought like, oh, we're going to throw this system out and people are just going to gobble it up. And the reality is, in most marketplaces, if you're ahead of the curve, if you're way out in front of people, there's a pretty long education gap that you have to like fill them in on why we're doing what we're doing and how it's wildly advantageous. And then there's just this big timing gap where you have to widen your funnel out so big, get the word out to so many people, because the percentages of organizations that are going to be ready to go now are pretty low. And I regret, not attacking it more aggressively in the first year or two. And then COVID kind of robbed a year of business development from everybody, because everybody was so hunkered down. Organizations really weren't looking to push the envelope.
Yeah, exactly. There was almost that kind of just like, let's keep what we've got at the minute because there's not, going anywhere else is just going to be too scary.
Yeah, too scary.
And I think it's well. So I mean, look, I think that the way that you think and the way that you operate, as you say, is very unusual. But when you're going out to these big businesses, it's all about trust, isn't it? Essentially, that's kind of, and when I'm talking to businesses, they're coming through and they're growing. It's about how do you build that trust with them as quickly as possible. And sometimes it's about throwing a lot of things out there that don't get an instant reaction. So becoming kind of thought leaders, becoming the guys that in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, whatever, when they are ready, they go, that's what those guys do, and I know they're good.
Right. Yeah, I think you have to be brutally honest. You cannot be secretive. You have to wear your whole story on your shirt sleeve. because your personal success and the extent of that success, like, okay, how successful was it? You have to really convey that in an honest way, because that's the best way to sell something that's new.
Yeah.
Hey, it worked for us, and here's how it worked for us.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much, to your point, you have to be a thought leader and just get out and tell your story over and over again.
Yeah, build that trust. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Listen, I'm going to run through some quick fire questions, if I may, just to kind of get us towards the end. So, is there anybody that you consider to be a sort of inspiration for you?
Well, the cliche answer would be my father. But from if I'm not going to use the cliche answer, I really appreciated, and you can only take them in small doses, but there's a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. Some have listened to him. He's like when I need a kick in the pants, like I need to just get out there and just grind it again. I bring up some Gary V and listen to one of his keynotes. So he's been good because he does just hit the nail on the head from the fundamentals. It's just hard work. Like just get grind sometimes.
Get on with it. Stop.
Yeah, get on with it. Quit the dilly dally and just get out there and just hit the pavement hard.
Yeah,
so he's good.
No, that's great. You mentioned kind of regrets and things like that. What piece of advice would you give to your younger self? Perhaps not as young as when you first started in the business, but to your younger sort of like self. What do you know now that you didn't know then that you could you give the advice to?
It'd probably be back towards that. Be more aggressive in the attitude and bet bigger on ShelfAware. So widen that marketing and sales funnel out faster, larger. I was way too insular and comfortable in my product niche and vertical. So I had like my little group of friends, and it's scary to go make new friends and get out there and mix it up. But I should have done a lot more of that faster.
Got it. What is it that drives you?
Boy, this I think is key. So a lot of people think business guys and entrepreneurs are driven by money, and it's not that. For me, it's winning. I like to. It's not just winning, it's like really pissing off somebody else that's been winning for a long time. And so disruption, I like to get in there and just, I'm not old, I'm 35. And so one of my greatest, I love getting in there and mixing it up with speaking circuits and speaking gigs. And I love to be 20 years younger than anybody. Everybody up, how did he get in here? Needling people, disruption. That's where I really thrive.
Got it. And what's kind of next for you guys? Where are you taking this? What's the big goal?
The big next for us in ShelfAware is we're really driving towards this idea of what we call cloud sourcing. And so now in my family business, which is really niche, they sell O-rings and gaskets. We've taken this system, ShelfAware, equipped them to go do this remote inventory management. We found that we can attack the market by making a collective of suppliers who are all on this platform. So ShelfAware is an agnostic platform. We can license it to any product vertical supplier. We try and attack or equip it with independent niche suppliers. In our marketplace, industrial distribution, there's some giants like Fastenal and Grainger and Worth, and they've become so big they can sell you anything. Huge product vertical depth and every product vertical covered from gloves and paper towels and toilet paper to engineered product. But they're good at everything and great at nothing. With ShelfAware, the software platform can bring you a collective of suppliers who are great at what they do and collectively supply you with the best products at the best price with research, design, and development and engineering support, all on one platform. It's all the same across all these product vertical suppliers. So the factory guys, the consumers, get an omni-channel. They can work through one portal, one platform, see everybody, visibility, transparency across dozens of product verticals, but they get the best of both worlds because every product vertical is taken care of, managed by an independent specialized supplier. So we're trying to go after market share in the industrial distribution place with this idea of cloud sourcing and attack the big guys where they're weakest.
And bring together sort of the quality of the SMEs, the kind of, as you said, the independent retailers, would give them the leg up and the ability to distribute far wider. Wow.
Yep.
Brilliant. Yep. Exciting times. Listen, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for your time today. That's Andrew Johnson of ShelfAware. If people want to catch up, people want to speak to you, Andrew, where can they reach you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Just go to LinkedIn. My name's really common. So if you look for Andrew Johnson, there'll be 8 million of us, but Andrew Johnson, Supply Chain Innovator is my last name. And so that's how you're going to find me, Supply Chain Innovator on LinkedIn. And I'm very active on there. I'd love to have conversations with folks through LinkedIn.
Perfect. Listen, so good to have you on. Thank you so much. That's Andrew of ShelfAware. As he says, if you want to get in touch with him on LinkedIn, go find him. Thank you as well for listening in. Thanks for your time today. We've been here focused as ever on growth execution. We'll be back next week with another interview with a growth leader, growth entrepreneur. So thanks once more for your time. Looking forward to catching up again then. And if you're ready, let's get growing.